Both happens to Sri Lanka do and within the reading this is the second book which deals with memory. First was the autobiography of Matthias Sen, and this is a memoir of legal expert. And when we are looking at this book, we were also reminded of another book which we are going to report on 22nd of this month. It is a work from T.N. Carter from Rai, major Japanese scholar Terada. In Terada's book, he makes one outstanding observation where he says, memory empowers and nostalgia enslaves. And he explores how nostalgia entails and memory empowers. Given this framework for us to look at words which looks at memory and not as nostalgia or romanticizing past, it becomes so important for us to understand our own trajectory. Given the fact that the way history is getting falsified so much, in that context, it becomes very, very important sequence. Personally speaking, I came to know about Katara's work through a Tamil work where she and her mother translated more around Marathi. When that happened, that's how I came to know about her work on Tamil culture. That translation was a major opening, primarily because I was looking at texts which were giving an interpretative history. And that interpretative history which captures certain layers of details which are getting lost in the folds of narratives. That was my concern, and that worked with the web of seed. Given this background, I'm so happy that she had taken up this task of translating our father's memoir Telugu and putting it out and using this idea of sitting audio not as a curse, but as a necessary task which each one of us is for. And that was a eye-opening sentence because generally associates Sicilian only always do associates with exercise with a necessary task which each one of us has to perform. And that way, I like the way she has used that better than the book. And I'm not going to talk much about this book. I would like Sriram in this discussion with Kalpana. Sriram is a close friend of the library. And we had drafted the theme for Vikramaditya Research Trust, which runs this library. So thank you for doing that. You are the leadership. Thank you for that. And we would like you to lead the discussion and then we open up for
Good evening, everyone. And I met Karan a couple of times. Well, I was a complete awe of it. When we had my younger lawyer. But I remember he had this, I mean, it was probably wrong with the safety. So he had this capacity which I think some places don't have. They're able to come down to your level and talk to you. And at the same time, they're able to elevate your level. You know. So you actually emerge so much enriched by the discussion. And that's one thing that I carry in mind for these many, many years. I'm really grateful for this opportunity because while I, of course, you are the world, and some of this problem is, it is real treat to go through this book. It is real treat. It's, I think we part of my reading the last 2 weeks, reading it and going back to it, going back to it. So it's a treasure trove, really, it's a treasure trove. And the law is, it just shows that this is a life that is commitment to the Constitution. And the idea of justice. And you title it as the speaking Constitution. And clearly the Constitution spoke to the man. But I think also he listened very carefully. And of course, it's one of the introduction to the book. We have the academic side there. But the book itself is so readable. It's so readable. It's as though you're sitting and recounting. It is so readable. Maybe Karuna, I'm going to start by just outlining the book a bit for the prayers and then we can start further.
Thank you very much, Family, for this invitation and thanks to Arman. And also a very special thanks to Sri Ramadan, who I long been reading his articles and reading. When I remember that the first time I heard of him was when my father mentioned you at some point in some context. And at that time, when he mentioned you, my husband then said, I think it's the same person who was the headquarters. So then that was like the total excitement because both my husband and my daughter are at the same school. And so we kind of, but I kept reading your columns in the Hindu, and I think once I wrote to you, then I was really concerned, really very grateful. You were the first person I thought of when Panir and I were discussing this, and I'm really grateful that you were able to come today. On this book, and to just provide a brief outline, the book has a focus on cases that KG Kattabir actually argued, or tribunals, public hearings, fact findings that he was actually part of. In the large set of comments that he wasn't really an academic or academically diligent writer in that sense. So when there was something that agitated him, he would write. This would also be about cases that came up at different points of time, and there are a number of those comments as well, which he has captured quite comprehensively in this earlier book, The Wages of Impunity, which also I helped him at that time to collate and put together. So when I thought of approaching this book after decorating the project for almost a decade, I felt as I went along that the way to approach it would be to look at cases that he had a hand in and to see how we approached commission, whether it was commissions or tribunals or public hearings or court cases. How did he approach his life in the law while he was standing in courts and trying to work the Constitution in whichever domain? Because the one thing that he always emphasized on was that the Constitution is never absent. So my objective was to try and capture some of that in the way in which he expressed. So the book basically then is not an exact replica of the Telugu text. It has only those chapters and those issues that he made a personal appearance. The issues that he focused on are quite diverse. Some of them he has written about and some he had not circulated. He had written, he stored his previously typed on his computer and saved documents. So there were several documents that I found that he had not published anywhere. For instance, his groundbreaking work on protections for the scheduled tribes in agency areas. He had spoken about this in many different forums. He had appeared in the High Court to get a stay on the operation of the 80 Panchayat Act in scheduled areas. It had ripples because when PISA was eventually introduced to the Rajya Sabha Minister Gannon Naidu, he made a reference to the state in the High Court. Now, I don't think my father actually knew that this case of his was connected to the enactment of PISA, because in several of his random notes, he has always said the PISA report has to do with the Bhuria Committee and with V.D. Sharma, S.R. Shankar, and all of whom he was very closely associated with, pushing for a new law. But when I opened up the proceedings of the Bhuria Committee and parliamentary debates, what I found was, while the Bhuria Committee was a trigger for a parliamentary debate, the justification given by Gannon Naidu was that this act is urgent because there is a stay back. And so this was one of the first cases I looked at, and I was very curious about why he had never published his comment on the schedule or the agency areas, which encompasses the Alta case, also the Polavaram Dam, where his argument was that if submergence means that you alter the boundaries of the village and sink the institutions in a scheduled area, you need presidential assent. So you can't alter the boundaries of a scheduled area without presidential assent. And this was the argument that he put before the High Court, and it was just reserved for judgment forever. He argued it in 2008 or 2009. And I was in court with him, and those years, 2008 and 2009, I would go with him to court quite often. But he hadn't written about this. This wasn't part of his Telugu memoir. The other is, the anger that he felt towards state violence was also an anger that also emanated from his own experience of state violence. He had written an unpublished note talking, which he titled Reminiscing on Human Rights Violation. Then he talked about the assault on him and Garko Day in 1982 in Madurai, but he had not published that. So my objective then, because for decades I had been observing his battles, talking to him, kind of trying to understand his ruminations over different areas of the law. I think I had a sense of which are the areas, apart from encounter rates, that he actively intervened in. And then I went looking in the Telugu book to see which of these areas figure and which don't. So do we have unpublished notes on the areas that don't figure? So basically then the structure of the book is something that I arrived at in a trial and error kind of sense. So what are the areas that we need to focus on? How and what position will they occupy in the volume? Land relations were an issue that agitated him. But the really exciting Kambarigan case that he speaks about, where it's agnostic slavery in the 1980s, is just tucked away somewhere. He just mentions it, by the way. And when you actually open out the case, you find it's just quite stunning, because he opens out the case of agnostic slavery through a case of criminal defamation against the Indian Express. So, so what are the, and he tries to mediate to get the landlord to actually distribute land to the landless. So what, in a criminal defamation case, so what are the avenues for mediating a peace? What are the non-negotiables? How can you go about it? Who can you bring in? You were earlier asking me about judges. Justice Punnaiah was a judge he had immense respect for. And in Kambarigan, in fact, he persuaded Justice Punnaiah to come in. So I think that those were, the concerns that I thought would make sense in trying to understand the diversity of his engagements with the Constitution and with the law.
I'm really both. He says, I believe that we have not taken our Constitution as seriously as we should have. We're paying the price of that neglect. Constitution is not merely another piece of legislation. It is a political declaration. People are behind the Constitution. People's movements are behind it. People's aspirations guide it. Our failure to understand the Constitution in this manner has resulted in our negation of its power as a political declaration. This has also resulted in the complete disconnect we see today between the judgments from our courts and the values of the freedom struggle and the Constitution. I want to ask you, and we had a discussion today on the Vice President and the Law Minister taking aim at basic stuff. What were his thoughts on this? As many of us today who see that as the last batch. One thing that, because while we speak of transient majorities, there are some majorities who don't be transient. And some see the structure as that last batch. If that were to crumble, then we are got where this concentration.
The sense that I get, I don't know if it's actually digital on this at great level, but the sense that I got from his work was that the basic structure is, of course, the non-negotiable floor. But if you stress on that non-negotiable floor alone, then you lose the deep interconnections between different parts of the Constitution, which make for a more robust interpretation, a more robust protection, and a more just and fair constitution. So I think that what always bothered him, and this is something that he frequently alluded to in his conversations, in newspaper columns that he wrote, that it is completely counterproductive to be reductionist in our approach to the Constitution. So, of course, the basic structure is important, but is it only the basic structure that's important? You know, so, and that was the key to his preoccupations, really.
One more thing I want to ask you, which is I don't very important. What were his views on the method of appointment judges? Did he like this collegiate method? What were his thoughts on it? I'm sorry, I'm taking this liberty.
He has in fact, I think, written a lot on judges in Wages of Indignity. On the method of appointment, I think certainly what he did talk about was how the commitment to the Constitution or public record of your defense of the Constitution does not form part of your eligibility for judicial appointment. That he was extremely clear about. But on the collegium, I don't think he actually commented on the collegium. I don't remember. But certainly on judicial appointments, his view was that there must be a public audit of records available to all on how you can work the Constitution, and it's on that basis that you should be able to enter.
You know, this was a lawyer who took his cases to courts across the state. Okay. And it's not that he slotted the lower court, the intermediate court, the high court. He took amazing range of cases involving most infinite question, and he took it to courts across the spectrum. That is a remarkable. Very few people do that. And starting from the first case that I said before, here is this case of Ansari Begum, who goes to Pakistan shortly after passing the husband, does not find he has this case, the media over there, comes back saying, I'm a Tamil woman, I want to live here. But she has a piece of paper which says Pakistani passport. And he doesn't do what magically people would have done, go to the High Court. Then he goes to the Chief President's Majesty. This I found quite amazing that he would use, not just use, but he would invest each court with that investment.
Yes. Yes.
That is something which is quite rare, very, very rare.
In fact, right to the end, one of the things he would always say is that the only judicial officer the Constitution recognizes is the magistrate. It is the magistrate who is sanctioned. It is the magistrate who stands on the threshold to protect the Constitution. And with all, young lawyers who came to him, who either worked with him or interned with him or just decided to follow him around in his walks for a brief period of time, or just came in to chat with him. The constant refrain that I heard, the constant refrains too that I heard, were one, don't specialize. Don't say this is the branch of law that I will specialize. As a lawyer, you must be able to handle every branch of law, because every branch of law, in a sense, runs into the other. Like we see with the Kamal Nath case as well. We see it with many other cases. So one, don't specialize. Don't say I'm a labor lawyer, I'm a constitutional lawyer, or something. I'm a criminal lawyer, etc. The second thing that he always said was, don't rush to the High Court. Exhaust your options. Because if you go to the High Court or go straight to the Supreme Court, then you have denied yourself the opportunity to layer your protections. You don't know. There may be a magistrate or a trial court judge or a sessions judge who knows his politics and his constitution and will be able to defend you like no high court will. And truth be told, we found several like that. For instance, in the death penalty case where Sukhani's case is discussed, he actually persuaded the sessions judge to commute the death sentence to life. He said the evidence is there. The fact is this man has brutally killed his students in full public view in her examination room in where one was taking her exams. So the investigating officers have collected the information. So I'm not contesting the evidence. I'm not asking you to admit it. You don't need to admit. Let him suffer his crime. Give him commuted to life sentence. Let him spend his life in jail. You know, so I think that whether there or the second conspiracy case or any of the conspiracy cases, it was Supreme Court judges who were convinced of this argument. If they were to go to today's High Court or Supreme Court, I guess all of them would be in jail. You know, so I think that these are the two things. One, don't exhaust your options and don't underestimate the intelligence of judges at different levels. And second, don't specialize, because that's one thing he did in his company, labor, everything.
Yeah, by not underestimating the capacity of the internal that want to invest in global we're actually investing in that.
Yes.
We're adding to its growth, its stage, its growth, its capacity. It's a very, very good, very, very important. This very important. This. You know, he says, as it is practically, I think it's practice of the lawyer. And he says, I never draw for cases. I never set out traditions on the kinds of cases that I wish to argue. The cases came 13 for me. I argued, and I am in short justice. I love this phrase. The cases came searching. And it's also simple, you know, that one can visualize cases come searching for him because he has to do that. But there is another thing which is very much at odds with what happens now in the legal profession. And that is this man saying, when he started practice, and set up office, starting to get some good cases. He says, at that point, I set myself a rule with regard to my income. Irrespective of who the litigant was, I would not amass wealth. I would not fall into the trap of earning money in this even for company matters, and I would fee that what I have my own fee. In other cases, I simply to put the client gave me. Now, just look at this. You know, the cases come searching for it very separately. The wealth comes also looking at everything. Are you interested in this? And it's as a leaves, you know, odds with what one sees, especially with these. I mean, our lawyers are doing that. This in the field, this in the number of years,
In fact, at one point, there was a junior of his, K. Prakash, who assisted him in the second part conspiracy case, which was the longest running case that we argued. And Prakash belonged to a community of 20 temples. And of course, they had like loads of excise cases that needed to be fought, and they had loads of money. And he would always say that, you know, they just kept asking him, why don't you start taking excise cases? You know, I mean, it's there, the money's there. Asking, just take excise cases. And he said, I have never chosen what cases I want to do so far. But now that you tell me, I'm not going to touch excise cases. Yeah, I mean, so, and I also remember that they used to, I mean, clients would come, and this is just from my memory, clients would come, and you know, once the case was over, they would just hand out bundle of notes to him as his fee, and he would just take it and put it in his pocket. Never count, never see how much have they given, what have they given. And then the next time he came into the house, either for a drink of water or whatever, and the house was, there was just a swing door between his office and the house. So the next time he came to the house, he would just pull out a bunch of notes and say, you know, what's in it? And my mother would say, what is this? How much is it? Who gave it? So he gave her the name, he would give her the name of who gave it to her. But how much is it? I don't know. So, you know, I mean, it was a complete detachment from the material aspect of that. I mean, okay, I did something for them and they came and gave it. And of course, none of his clients, I mean, the one guarantee that I think he had as well as my mother had was that no colored client would pay him excessively anyway. So whatever was given was very much within the limit that he could just put uncounted and just, you know, just hand over my mother. Sometimes she would get really irritated, and you know, as if I don't have enough work in the house and maybe this works.
No, he points the civil liberty movement is so strong enough. You have an exile prisoner, defense committee, which is the Jeevan Reddy was there. And if I can say, you know, he says, I'm not so comfortable with this alien conciliation approach to political that staff and the point he makes about it's not decided against what, it's decided against what, not for whom. You know, we're fighting for something much, yes, for the other. And he makes this point. He says it is not to be seen as something significantly backslide. It is not to be seen as against state violence.
Yes.
You know, these three, he's pointing about, and the lovely story of that shepherd.
Yes.
When you like to tell respect.
Where he goes to investigate disappearances and killings, and goes and walks into this village, and there is an old shepherd there, and he just gets talking to him. So he was used to doing this. He would just walk into a village where there has been a disappearance or an encounter, and park himself in the middle of the village, and then people would just ask for him and buy him to come, and he would get talking with them on. And he said, no, but you know, it seems they killed the moneylender, so they did commit a crime, so they were killed. So isn't that fair that they killed Dante, I think, and so he got And the shepherd then found that all you need, then what you have courts for. And then he comes to the high court. And that's the the richest part of the story. So straight from there, he comes to the high court. And a young, English-speaking health lawyer comes to him and says, what are you defending, all this violence, and it's indefensible violence by these people. So why are you saying that they shouldn't be treated like this by the police? And he just turned around to him and said, your parents have wasted their money educating you. That illiterate shepherd knows the Constitution better than you do.
Yes.
And this was actually one of his favorite stories. He told it and wrote about it so many times.
So let's, come to the emergency. And he filed the very first case.
Yeah.
He filed it on the 27th. First case, and he invoked the basic structure. He invokes it for personal emergency. And he filed something like 200 to 300 representations during the course of the emergency. And every second actually who goes to court says, my lawyer is going to. There is a either a realization or a disappointment. He says, yes, he was progressive judge, but he will not be the bar or he has the bar. And he says that about a institution where it's going to come up before inequality and vulnerability.
Yes.
And his friend, the law, that he says, I'm going to. This is what we detected, what we struck down. And Karavan says, no, he says, you are in a position that you struck down. Even though this is as progressive.
And they have to be justified.
And then he goes to the Supreme Court and we are disturbed. We are final. The court potentially use it in a way.
Absolutely.
We could have used it. But we didn't. There is a realization and the sadness, things, but they could not. There's something which prevents the progressive crossing that bar and going forward.
Right. What they want. In fact, his entire struggle with the emergency cases was precisely that there was such a blatant violation of law. Bhumia District Court was, of course, the most stark. And in that, Navreddy comes out shine. He gives a stay of the execution in the middle of the night and so on. But then, with the other cases, again, he doesn't, stand firm. So it was like, you found the best judges vacillating. You couldn't say this person will hold this position no matter what. And that totally atrocious case where when he asked the judge, what are the grounds for his arrest? The government leader said that the grounds are being tight. So he says, why not they make a note of that? The grounds may be tight, so please release the detainee. But the judge is unwilling to do that. And he kept him talking till the grounds got tight and delivered it. So it was like, even that for me was an open instruction. Okay, the grounds are not tight. So he was paid. But yeah, so I think it's a pinch of sad. It's also, I think, somewhere a very deep disappointment because they place that this was not a profession. This was his deepest emotion. he was invested in it. You know, so and you know, that was one of the things that I wanted to come towards the end. So it was something he was deeply invested in, and so every time something like this happened, he just felt doing it, you know, and found it very hard to fight back and stay on course. He did fight back and stay on course, but you know, his involvement was it was painful to watch him.
What did he done to what revived?
Music, perform.
Well, I was asking you when you were sitting, to be judges, the but contemporary is like living rules. He does also mention Karna. There's mention of Justice Karna.
Yes, of course. ADM Jabalpur and Justice Khanna sent a votes. I mean, I don't put that as a given. But from the earlier judgments, it was sort of what's the
and this is somewhat tongue in cheek with this praise of Bhagavad Gita.
Very tongue in cheek.
You know, sometimes I remember I was in college when I was in charge of the I was chair of the student union. And I remember sitting on the steps of that college and being pronounced this country has a remarkable capacity of leaders.
Yes.
You know, the conspiracy trials, even for them, they take 3 decades to this matter.
Yes.
And he says, you know, in the second trial, I started when I was 45 years old. And he says, when I was 60, the trial was still on, and I told that it's about time in 1950. 3 decades of his life. And you know, the way he explores in this book is theory of conspiracy. You take a string of occurrences, including the public meetings, and you spin a conspiracy out of that, and you focus on even that later. So you get it.
And the investigating officer filing a private complaint. You know, I mean, so how can an investigating officer or policeman file a private complaint in a conspiracy case? So that's what they did, and that's what courts allowed. And sentence people to death on that count. So in second conspiracy case, in fact, I think it was going on in November. It was due to come towards end of October or November that year. And he told the judge, next month, next week is my 60th birthday. I started this when I was 45. So please pronounce the judgment on my 60th birthday. So the judge actually did that, and all the accused got acquitted.
Perhaps you should be glad that he's not allowed to see what's happening in Bhimapuri.
Certainly. We were actually glad that by the time Vinay Sen was convicted, he was not okay and put down rapidly. So we didn't tell him that Vinay Sen was convicted because that was the one thing that he was extremely disturbed about. And I think a year or so before we died, Sri Sri Ravi Shankar and the second Sri Sri Ravi Shankar came and sent for him to discuss the question of peace in Chhattisgarh. And we asked him to come home if he wants to talk to him, but then they prevailed on him to go and see Sri Sri Ravi Shankar. So he went along with his junior and Ravi Shankar and his son. And Ravi Shankar started off by saying, okay, Mr. Kanikiran, tell me, how shall we bring peace to Chhattisgarh? So he just looked at him and said, Mr. Ravi Shankar, you get Vinay Sen out of jail. I will guarantee that I will work towards peace in a way that you can't imagine, and I will make it the truth. All you need to do is prevail, use your influence with the Chhattisgarh government and get Vinay out of jail. And that was the end of the conflict. There was nothing more that Ravi Shankar wanted to say to him. So he left, and I could see it alive. And he was convicted of forward. So Bhimapuri would have just finished him. I'm glad he's not here. Like even denied since then.
There's only most emergency, there's not the carbon committee. And I'm amazed at the way he brought, the issue of detentions and deaths in Andhra Pradesh. It's such a national focus.
Yes.
That again, the kind of lens to which you see the occurrence of the and how he got that committee together, the judges, the workers, the common English, Orissa, Shaudi, Parvati. I mean, and he was really the Bhargava Commission.
Yeah.
Of course, wonderful Chief Shankar opposing, that must be quite a sight to see.
Yeah. There was such hilarious stories every evening after the sitting. And Chief Shankar actually speaks on camera. There is a biopic, a documentary of my father's that was made by Rita Raj, which is available on YouTube, called The Advocate. In The Advocate, Chief Shankar actually speaks into the camera on what he remembers, and it's amazing how much he doesn't remember. But actually, what strikes me about the Karpule Committee, even more than the Bhargava Commission, is what I discovered later once I started working on this, which is that after the Karpule Committee reports, 2 reports were published in 1978, there was a parliamentary debate which had people from across parties debating state violence under the Congress regime, on which Mr. Charan Singh was presiding over that debate. And Ahalya Rangnekar and Hina Basu and a couple of others actually raised questions of the government on what is the government planning to do with the disclosures of the Bhargava. And the Bhargava Commission then gets set up after that. Yeah. So for me, when I look at the ripples of his work or the impact of this work, the impact is not only and not perhaps so much in terms of the precedents that his argument set, or it certainly did result in a growing constitutional common sense around him and around the country. But, the way in which those debates on the Constitution kind of just cascaded into legislative assemblies, into Parliament, into the Lok Sabha, into the Rajya Sabha. And there is a written document of those debates. So I actually found the entire debate on the Faculty Committee in the Lok Sabha debates. Similarly with the Ramizadi case, where unlike all the other commissions, was submitted at the same time, finished at the same time as Bhargava Commission. Unlike all the other reports, the Ramizad report was tabled in the AP Legislative Assembly. And there was a very long debate in the AP Legislative Assembly across party lines on what should be done with these police officers, what should be done with state violence, and how should justice be brought to a poor Muslim woman. And the debate is in Telugu, English, and Urdu. So I just saw a newspaper clipping that said that the government had tabled the report in the assembly, and then asked my friend Basu if he can actually source the legislative assembly debate. And we managed to get the entire debate on the Ramizadi case. And it's just quite fascinating that in 1978, the Legislative Assembly would spend some hours debating the question of custodial rape and custodial murder. The case is infractious. They're acquitted. But what is important for me is, that we don't lose sight of the complex history of civil liberties, which doesn't necessarily culminate in a case. So how do we construct discourse differently?
So because there's a very different point where there is a thought that says, take a case to a court, I get a ruling, and there is a definiteness about the outcome. What do we get from commissions of inquiry? What do we get from people's referendums? Is it so much effort expended, not commensurate? But actually, you see the kind of work that is done, in terms of public education, focused on the wrong. And it also terms of getting in front of minds to cover a roadmap for a different way of handling the problem. There's some extraordinary games.
Yes, absolutely.
And I guess one of those, what you mentioned just now, that the selfies takes part in the hours.
And that's in fact been the most exciting part of the work that I did. For him, it was his life. For me, it was just watching him work, trying to understand it as a sociologist, as a legal ethnographer, as a collaborator, co-author, but as a doctor who was occupied that real space. So how do you keep it all separate and just try not to get into a eulogy of this father that you absolutely loved, but to kind of get to the bottom of what he was trying to do?
How do we come to pilot that case?
The Madhusudan Raj Yadav case. So Madhu was a very close friend of us. He was with the ML, one faction of the ML. and he was part of that young set that would mill around him all the time. He really loved them. They, and they were all in small universities, so there was a lot of connection. And Madhu was actually killed when he was not so politically active anymore. And they killed him in, Charminar Crossroad, RTC Crossroad, because it's like a crowded part of the center of the city. And they just got into this house where they thought he was and killed him. And said an unidentified Naxalite has been shot. And so he went to court the next day as always. And one of his juniors told him that Madhu's wife suspects that this unidentified Naxalite may be Madhu because he's been missing since a night or two. And so he just walked into the Chief Justice's court, Justice Prabhashankar Mishra, was also known in Madras, and asked him to make sure that that the body is not created, and that there must be an autopsy and the wife must be present at the postmortem and so on. And he filed a petition. The judge asked him to file a petition. He filed a petition. And the judge then asked him, in the judgment, KT Kandigat versus State of Andhra Pradesh, the judgment says that counsel KT Kandigat was asked to accompany the wife of the slain person and be present with her at the postmortem. So he accompanied the wife, and they identified the body. And then when he came back, that is actually the beginning of the encounters. The court then ruled that the policemen must be identified, they must be named, an FIR must be filed, and self-defense is only a defense at the trial stage. It can't be at the time of admission. So that is the first kind of the first ruling on encounters. Later, of course, we have the full bench decision of the High Court and so on. But this was also somebody who was very good, and he was deeply upset. But what was totally, no killings are necessary. But among all of the unnecessary killings, this was particularly big.
Coming to the death penalty, he said there is a punishment worse than the death penalty, and that is right. He also gets the court to look into where the case of personal gain and another type of case may personally consume by money. That's about the But it also does say, it's a perhaps part of this case, so it's tried and
That's stressing on the fact that they are revolutionary leaders, and that probably had the court stack up. So when I think back on it, maybe we should have just said no death penalty, whether revolutionary or not, and we might have actually got the girls. That was where Krishna Iyer in fact didn't agree. Basically, Krishna Iyer in Supreme Court judgment on Krishna and Bhumia said that the penal code doesn't make a distinction between political and political. So, yeah.
But if you need to make somebody others. Afzal Guru is charged in the Parliament Act case and he seeks legal representation. He is given lawyers refused to appear, they declined to appear. He is given somebody to this panel in the lawyer and he says, well, that's not enough. So he goes through this trial.
Yes.
How did this government get thrown into that?
Initially, the decision was that no lawyer would appeal for any of those in the parliament. So whether it was Gilani or Shaukat Guru or Afzal Guru or Afzal Guru, these were the four. Nobody would represent them. Then Nandita and Linda represented Gilani, and Nitya represented Afzal Guru. That still left Afzal and Shaukat. At that point, Nitya and Dr. Namdar came to Hyderabad and asked him if he would represent Shaukat. And he agreed. So he was still standing for the parliament in that case throughout the trial. He appeared in the trial court. Shaukat Guru was not acquitted in the trial. He was awarded the death penalty. Afzal Guru and Shaukat Guru's death penalty went right after the Supreme Court in Appeal. And in the Supreme Court, Shanti Bhushan argued for Shaukat Guru. And Vidya's account of that is that the way in which Kandigram conducted the trial of Shaukat at the trial court level made it really possible for Shanti Bhushan to argue for the commutation of his death penalty. And so what happened was that he was acquitted of terror crimes. And his sentence was reduced to 10 years. So basically, he had served 10 years, so he walked out free. But with Afzal Guru, there was nobody. And I remember that during that time, every time he came back from Delhi, he would be extremely upset and agitated that Afzal was not getting represented. I know that there were also several arguments within the legal team because one of the things he felt was that the entire lot of lawyers representing all four accused must work not for individual accused but together, and they must have a joint legal strategy for all, not arguing for the acquittal of one or the other. And this wasn't an easy kind of conversation for all of them. It was difficult for them. It was difficult for him. But ultimately, Afzal went totally unrepresented. And in fact, for all of the other cases, their cases where he personally appeared. But Afzal Guru's case, he had written a detailed comment and left it on his computer. But I just felt that he didn't appear for Afzal Guru, but he appeared for Shaukat Guru. And he observed the parliament trial from the inside. So this is a story that must be told. So I just then put a head note on what his role in that trial was, because that's one story that departs from my thumb rule that he should have appeared. Yeah. So because he appeared for Shaukat Guru, we included his comment on Afzal Guru. But yeah, right in the end, we felt that that was just something that should never happen.
I would ask and to speak about working within the Swami Premananda case.
Yes, Friday also was there. Yeah.
let's go to his work for religious minorities. Lots of things to speak about, and there's some little bit of the role of the governor, which is very important for the state at the moment.
Yes.
Yeah, right.
When he holds the government.
Talks about the work of building a Hindu Rashtra, commencing after the national benefit and balance came into power. And then he talks about the Marina community. And he handled his either four major situations involving this priority. And in the Lanka, he even has to protect people like Rashtra.
Yes.
Who do not want to come forth and speak. Some people take it in favor of the secret people space. He's already politically.
Yes. And a range of minorities. So he's talking about Muslims, he's talking about Sikhs, and he's talking about Muslims.
And really is that the real bottom foundation of what this country is.
Yes.
Yeah. How we compete our views in the development. Julian stayed with him for a long time.
Yeah, one of them stayed till he wound up the office. But none of them actually took in his political work in any sector. One of them is some criminal matters and formulas and things like that. But they are in different branches, and that's something that he also see. He got juniors from a very diverse group. With diverse persuasion, political persuasions. There were some who were not involved in any form of mainstream politics. There were others like Prakash, who worked with him in Secretary conspiracy case and with the excise cases, who was a cardholding member of the BJP. And he was defending Kotapalli Sitaramaiah in court. You know, and he was by all accounts, he never spoke English. By all accounts, he was the finest criminal lawyer there was around there. And my father depended heavily on him for the conspiracy trials, particularly the Secretary conspiracy case. And when Prakash died early, he died about 7 years ago. There are 3 or 4 of his juniors who are in practice, but they're doing very different things. And I also think, you know, his legacy is outside, like I said, outside of the court and outside of the people who were directly with him. You know, it's like just completely more spread out.
presence in those schools?
Not very much. Because I mean, in Nalsar, he came whenever I called. That I can't do this father-daughter thing too much, no? So even so, quite shamelessly, I keep calling him. Why don't you come and speak here? Or why don't you sit here in this conference? Or why don't you come and address my class? Or I used to do a lot of work with community-based organizers. So when I had workshops for them or legal clinics, I would ask them to come and talk to them. But literally, I think I was in Nalsar for 10 years. I quit Nalsar the year before he died. And in those 10 years, I think the only person who volunteers. So that was like before. And I kind of also really I don't want. And everybody knew him. When he came there, they would all be very warm. The vice chancellor was very fond of him. All of them would be very warm. The faculty, the students would be very fond of him and they're around him. But then somebody has to call. I mean, I can't be the one calling.
Right. I'm just going to work with Gujarat. Again, so just
Yes. He was used to seeing so much of blood and war and gruesome murder. So obviously, each time it just must have bothered him. But when he was in Gujarat, or those 2 or 3 weeks that they went to Gujarat, my mother went with him. And both of them, and she was allowed to sit with the proceedings, although she was not a good member. And both of them saw that whole tragedy. I think that must have helped him somewhat.
And last question, but his participation in the peace talks in Andhra and he's in it, he's participating. There are others who are in charge with such high hopes, but he keeps being like a scenario. Yes. And I know the feeling because to some extent I lived like for 9 months, but I was living this area. I know that feeling.
Yeah.
Give it on this box. Give it a try. Just give it a try.
By then we were already, kind of really kind of pulling his neck back in. So the peace talks, and then this is like not related to the seriousness of the peace talk. Before that, there was also a case, Edwin Rao's judgment on the need for a peace process, which he argued. So that is the Shakyamuni Apparao case. So in a sense that paves the way for a larger engagement with peace. But, like all the committees, but then by the peace talks, we decided this is enough. So I remember, and then the 3 women, my mother, me and my sister, not easy for us. And we just said, what is this concerned committee or men? My friend Olga is here. She's been witness to all of these conflicts on men. What peace are you guys going to get? And so we would just break into the room, Hargopal, Shankaran, Poturi, my father, everybody sitting there, and we would just break in and say, what is this completely all men and you want to bring peace? And so then they got in one a senior journalist into the committee, and then we just laughed and said, that's it. I mean, how long have we been talking about tokenism? So, by that time, we really started pushing, saying, no, this is not enough. You need to think of the terms of the debate again. So every time, anyone mentions the peace talks, I only remember this party used to have, the women used to have a DJ that they met.
I wonder with that because there may be some question. That question.
Yes.
I just wanted to make one point and read an excerpt.
Yes.
I was kind of wanting to do it right at the end. So I can do it now and then we can do it. Take a side. Yeah, so, in all his work, I think one of the things that comes through very strongly is the kind of totally inspirational person that he is. And my struggle is always to sidestep a glorification or an hagiography around this person because he was very, very human. We treated him as a very, very human person. We spoke to him like everybody. He was completely democratic with us. I remember going to law school and my vice chancellor coming to the faculty meeting and said, welcome to the Nalsar family, and I'm the Karta of this family. And I just looked at him and said, my family doesn't have a Karta. And this is my workplace. So, and I think the good thing is that my mother, Vasant Kandiran, who was a poet and writer, published her memoir 3 years ago. And I'm glad that her memoirs came out before this. He, as you saw, doesn't really dwell on the personal too much. There is, of course, a gender angle to it, but also because I'm a lot like him, I understand that it is also because he was an intensely violent person. So he didn't really want to, talk about too much. If people asked him too much about his family because they are completely and irrepressible lot, he would just say, Vanita, you give the right to talk to me about. And that would be any other discussion. But I think what my mother has to say is also interesting. So I just wanted to read out a couple of small excerpts from her memoir to just help you to contextualize the wonderful discussion that we've had. I think this is the first comprehensive, deep discussion that I've actually had on this book, and it's just been so wonderful. And my point is about reproductive labor. As people who have grown up in the women's movement, who have looked at the question of care work, of reproductive labor, of the sexual division of labor, and when every time somebody says he lived a long life and he was committed to the end, and that he was Sisyphus and he kept rolling the rock up untiringly. And my thought is always, so what helped him to go to roll that rock up? There's something between the rock coming down and his action of pushing it up again. So what is that interstitial space and what does it do? And she has 2 wonderful passages that I wanted to read. One is about in the Imakulegam case, with a very dear friend of the families and of his. And this was a time in a poem called Waiting, Nirisha. And my mother wrote a response to that, saying waiting. And so I quote her. I remember an amusing anecdote from this time. Waiting, Nirishana. to a group of writers, male of course, was written and read out. That is, my translation of it was taken to a group of male writers and read out to them. They were all of the opinion that the poem was so powerful that no contemporary woman writer could possibly have written it. It had to be a man. And this was beautifully reported. I'm always flattered that the adjective used to describe my writing is powerful. It empowers me. Many have also told me appreciative that I'm like a man and I have learned to take it with a smile. Yet, anyone who reads this poem will immediately know that it could not, by any stretch of imagination, have been written by a man. Actually, I wrote the poem in response to the one that Varavar Rao had said on waiting while he was in prison. I had translated those verses and was deeply moved. I thought of Hemlata, his wife, who visited Kanna regularly. He would give her an update of the developments in Rao's conspiracy case. That's the second about conspiracy. She would return home after her visit to the jail, helpless and crushed. Dini had surrendered in court on Kanna's advice because his life was in danger. And he suffered in jail pangs of conscience as well as the party's criticism that he was hiding in the safety of jail. I wrote a moving reply in Nirikshana. When Varavar Rao read it, his comment, of course, was so typically Leninist that it was comical. He said that instead of writing about middle-class women, being his wife, instead of writing about middle-class women, I should focus on the countless tribal and peasant women who were suffering. His reaction was disappointing, but typical. And Hemlata identified so completely with the poem that when I told her I was planning to publish it, she said, just wait, I have to check with Dini. I then pointed out to her that it was I who was the point, and that Dini did not have a say in my publishing. The other example is, I clearly recall how Kanna scolded me once for being nervous while I expressed my fears regarding his state. This was long before his work took on a political color. He told me, you have been a pillar of strength for me during my troubles, and I can't bear weakness. Those words did not transform me instantly into a Veerabhadra, a figure so idealized by revolutionary movements. It is so pathetic that revolutionaries cannot think beyond wifehood and motherhood. I decided then that Kanna could deal with his troubles himself, that I would be no pillar of strength for anyone. After all, a pillar is fixed, immovable. It cannot walk away from its responsibilities. I wanted my freedom and my opportunities. When we got married, I had said to him that we would live together for 10 years and then continue only we felt like. He agreed instantly. I suspect he knew far better than me what it meant to get used to a bond. Our marriage eventually stretched for half a century. But the one quality that was so amazing about him was that he was democratic at heart. He may have scolded a child on occasion, but he was never brutal with them in the way that I could be. He was impatient, often bulldozing his way into an argument, but seldom disrespectful. He disapproved of my lack of respect and discourtesies towards people I disagreed. However, despite the unyielding demands of his juniors, with increasing workload and his impatience with inefficiency, I had consciously made up my mind that I would never let myself be overwhelmed or overawed by him. His juniors and clients were always shocked at the casual way in which I addressed their sir, and the way in which I cut into important discussions with trivial messages or requests. But I realized that if I waited for the right moment or let his profession override our priorities, I would be waiting forever. To be fair to Kanna, he was never irritated by my interruptions. He was always patient. He probably welcomed the disruption as a breath of fresh air away from his dry duties. And finally, My role in Kandiran's life was to help him keep his feet firmly planted on the ground, debunk the praise and the praisers, and keep my own admiration for the phenomenon he had become at a low key, so that he could retain his ordinary human qualities and not become some larger-than-life figure. I helped him stay in touch with himself, an ordinary man who was fortunate enough to lead an extraordinary life without losing his ordinariness.
We can take about 3 questions.
So why do you not take on Rajat Guru's case? Why did you not represent him? I don't, you didn't explain why you didn't represent him.
I think the question of representation was getting sorted out. He'd already agreed to take Shaukar's brief, and he didn't want to take 2 briefs. So he was just hoping, because each lawyer was representing one person. Nitya was representing her son. I don't know the intricate details of it, but I imagine it's because he already was representing her.
I just wanted that for reminding us of the work that people like your father did. Because I think it's so easy to get demoralized. And one of the things that keep coming back on the emergency or back on the online experience with encounters and with the agile cultural immunity that success achievement up to NTR being the most well-known instance of doing that. It's also very sobering because you see that the Indian state has a very long life in immunity. What we see now is particularly vicious instance of the logic that has always been present. And go back to what Sheila started with. In this sense, the Constitution gives them not simply the basic structure, but now creative thing, get it, what are the limits to that creativity. And well, it's sobering on the one hand, deeply depressing on the other. Still, the fact that there were these wonderful people that worked on these issues, and there's no choice but to go on doing the same thing. It's something that came to today's conversation. Both your questions were so nuanced and collective. Of course, the energy that you brought to it, which is so much like your dad's, always a laugh, always a bit of humor, storytelling. One thing I do want to share here is that the love for literature. Because you always spoke from literature, even in ordinary conversations. So perhaps that also is something that we look to sort of take them away from this menace and this thing. And I also remember the time that MP was kidnapped, MLA was kidnapped, and there were all these hilarious stories of him and Balgopal playing a cricket match by waiting for these peace talks to continue. So there were also these ways in which, you know, it was also so human. Yeah. Thank you so much for doing that.
He would, in fact, frequently just call up Volga and say, Volga, I want to write a poem. And he was always fancied that if he ever wrote poetry, his pen name would be Kabir. And I want to write a poem. And there's one time when he wanted to write a poem because BB or somebody wrote a poem on Shankaran, which was completely unacceptable to him. So he just told her line by line how he wanted it to go. And Volga wrote this poem and said Kabir and published it. So, you know, he had unfulfilled dreams. One was to be a poet with a pen name Kabir.
We can take one here there. No. Any more questions?
Just a little kind of Andhra's connection with Tamil Nadu is started in obviously from Tamil Nadu as such. What was it like in the childhood
the experience that sort of would make him into the kind of student of his activities which he took up later. Some kind of memories of what it is to live in some kind of environment which trigger aspects of his thinking or his something from his background that triggered his passion, his commitment.
But he didn't grow up in Madras. He grew up in Hyderabad and in Lagos after a while. And had a very, very difficult childhood. Education was difficult. Everything. It wasn't an easy kind of all. He moved to Madras after his school. He went to intermediate because his cousin, older cousin, was relatively more well off, was here, and he was a lawyer and the secretary of the board for him. So he moved to Madras at that time, and I think that the influences were largely toward in his adolescence in Nehru, because his eldest brother, who he mentions, Seshadri, 9 or 10 years older than him, was in the communist movement and had been arrested. He jumped arrest from a running train, went underground, and the only person who was in touch with was my father. And he kept flying him with books. And then when he came to Madras, they figured that people in Madras know very well, ASK Iyengar was my mother's granddad. He was my great-grandfather's younger child. And he was in the communist movement as well. And he was underground. And he lived with my father in Rajappa's house while he was underground. And because that was a fairly long period, he kept climbing with a lot of books. And my mother also says that, my father was very, very, all of them, she too, very, very deeply influenced by ASK and his younger brother, A.S.R. Chari, who was a lawyer of the Nanavati case and so on. And these two communist brothers, really shaped my father in very different ways, my mother in very different ways. My father, because one was in the legal profession, and so in many ways he modeled himself on A.S.R. Chari's work. How do you approach law? Because there was nobody by that very suddenly. And ASK was very close. Because I remember as a child, we come to Chennai quite often. My paternal grandmother used to live here. And every time we came during summer, he would definitely make a trip to the Dock Workers Union, because ASK used to stay in the Dock Workers Union office. And that was a regular trip that we made, and we would spend all day there talking to him and coming back. So there were influences on him that were communist influences from that first generation. And mainly the people who influenced him at that time was not even A.S.R. Chari, it was Seshadri and who retired from JNU and ASK Iyengar. These were the two. But after a point, he even got impatient with my uncle, with Seshadri. He said he's too dogmatic. So he didn't like rigidity or an unbending approach to anything. He wanted people to be accommodating, to listen, to not be spectacular on things. But I think, from the things that he used to say, and of course his second brother, who retired as a clerk in the LIC, was a trade union leader in the LIC, which is why he never got promotions. And after a point, he refused promotions because then he couldn't be involved with the trade union. he was also quite an influence, but not in terms of reading and so on, but in terms of organizing and talking about that piece of it. But I think over and above all of that, it was what he had seen his mother doing. At rock bottom, it was that. Because my grandfather just brought in a second wife. He was a very well-placed doctor. He was a jail doctor in Madurai, jail doctor in Hyderabad. Well-placed doctor. He married off his eldest daughter. Within months of marrying his eldest daughter off, he announced that he's bringing in a child widow that he had married as his second wife. And my grandmother then left the house with three of her children. I don't know whether Seshadri went with her. I'm not sure. But the three younger children, she just walked out of the house and went and lived in the next street in the outhouse of another family who knew her. And then eventually moved to Delhi with them. Moved to Delhi with them and occupied his family lands, my grandfather's family lands, which meant that my grandfather's brothers were constantly preying on her and she was fending them off. Yeah. So and this was a woman with no formal education who just said, no, there is no way he will see me and this woman under the same roof. It's not going to happen. So finally, when he was on his deathbed in 1961, he kept looking at the door and people kept coming and telling my grandmother, he's waiting for you to come. And she just said all his life, he had only wanted one thing, just to see both his wives under the same roof. That's not going to happen this time. So she did not come. And she received the news of his death. And, we both, her strength of character, her deep suffering, the way in which she was mistreated in this larger family environment, and how she managed to hold her own. Several years later, she came relating that she died in my father's house. I think that was, the emotionally intense, the emotional intensity with which she approached the question of justice. I think had to do with that experience. While the intellectual rigor and the reading, the understanding, the political was something that there were other influences on as well.
But you want to say some concluding remarks before we wind up?
No, I think it's perfect.
Thank you very much. Thank you to both of you. It was wonderful evening. Thank you.